Hi everybody, Jim Ostrowski, live from a secret location. If I told you I'd have to kill you, with a special edition of the Liberty Moving podcast. I'm actually in a very historical spot. I want to talk about one of my proposals as a candidate for chair of the Libertarian Party. We need a Libertarian Hall of Fame. And I'm just going to talk about it very briefly today, but I'm in an appropriate spot, I think. That would be Independence Hall. I haven't used the selfie stick in a while. That's George Washington. So the Independence Hall, of course, was this site where the Declaration of Independence was debated, ratified, and signed, which created the United States. And this was a libertarian revolution. Now, most people don't think of it that way because there's a problem with the word libertarian, which is that it was a neologism. It was kind of coined in 1971. They needed something other than liberal or conservative when they were founding the Libertarian Party, which is fine. I get it. I'm not criticizing that, but we have a marketing problem, which is that the American people do not understand the historical roots of the libertarian movement. And the reason is real simple. It's because the libertarians of the past did not call themselves libertarians. And I did a podcast on this. They called themselves lots of other things. But we now, understanding what libertarian means, can look back in history and say, these people were libertarians. These people had some libertarian elements. So that's one of the reasons why we need a Libertarian Hall of Fame, to reconnect the modern liberty movement with history. And the other main reason is that once you understand that libertarianism has been a factor in creating the modern world all the way back to 1646. In its heyday really was 1646, 1776, and then through 1913, with some imperfections and contradictions, of course. This was a largely libertarian country, and that changed in 1913, and things have kind of slowly gone downhill since then. It takes a while to, eat up the seed corn, to paraphrase Mises, but we're now in sort of an obvious state of decline. But in that time when libertarians were kind of winning political battles and held office, we've had 2, 3, 4 presidents who were arguably libertarian, and many, many accomplishments. The American people are not aware that almost everything good about the modern world, politically, is the product, that's an appropriate sound, is a product of the historical libertarian movement. And that's why basically we need a Libertarian Hall of Fame. I think it should be in Philadelphia. It's not a pie in the sky idea. It's not really a frill or something that we might want to think about doing. I think it's a necessity. If we're going to take this movement, which has been at 1% for 50 years, and start to have an impact before this country falls apart, which is obviously it's on the road to doing that, we need to do this to educate the public. And you may say, well, where's the money coming from? Look, it's going to cost $25 million. We don't need $25 million, immediately. You need some seed money. The libertarian movement spends $500 million a year. Yeah, it does. Now, most of that doesn't go to the Libertarian Party. So the money's out there. And it's just that if you want to go to wealthy people with ideas, they better be good ideas. They don't want to say, there's very few wealthy people who give money to the Libertarian Party because they don't want to waste their money. But this is not a wasted idea. I think it's going to cost $25 million. I don't think that's really a lot of money for a really good idea that must be done. But think about it this way. The whole point of this Hall of Fame will be to educate the American people about what libertarian really means and all the things they owe to the libertarians, such as the Bill of Rights, the concept of free trade, which has raised the living standard, although imperfectly applied, has raised the living standards of the entire world. Freedom of movement. Everybody's talking about freedom of movement. That was something that John Locke talked about in the second treatise. Certainly a libertarian philosopher. So, education is expensive. Knowledge is expensive. $25 million is a fair chunk of money. But you have to balance that against the cost of ignorance. What does ignorance cost? What does ignorance cost? What's the federal debt today? 40 trillion? Now that's real money. So, yes, educating the American people, building this brick and mortar Hall of Fame, probably nearby here in Philadelphia. It'll be a new build. I think it should be inspired by Jefferson's architecture. Yeah, it'll be expensive. It won't be easy, but we have to do it. And ignorance costs a lot more money. So that's my message. We just left the Libertarian. I say we. I guess when I say we, I mean I've got some support in the Pennsylvania Libertarian Party. I was the only candidate to show up. They say half of life is just showing up. I showed up, and I think I made a pretty good impression. I don't know. I'm not counting the votes at this point. But back to Buffalo right now, and on to North Carolina next week. So I want to thank everybody for listening to yet another edition of the Liberty Moving podcast, straight from Philadelphia, the site of America's libertarian revolution.